From a web developer's perspective, the AI hype is real, I would say. Today, we're going to talk about which AI toolings in web development actually work. We're going to present concrete examples of workflows that we use every day and that we use to create a brand new website just these couple of weeks that have passed. If you want to stay on for that and get behind the hype, stay on for this episode. Hi, my name is Nils. I'm a web developer and co-founder of Dingy Studio. We make a whole bunch of websites since many years. And today I'm talking to my friend and teammate Tulsi, who is going to show us the newest and greatest AI workflows that he's actually using every day. So I'm excited to have him on for the interview. It's a long episode, be warned, but I think there's some juicy bits in there. See you there. Tulsi, thank you for coming on. We've been working together now for almost half a year or something.
Yeah, somewhere around 5 to 6 months.
Yeah, right? 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And we totally unromantically met on Upwork. I'm very happy that we did. We needed urgent help on a project, and I was hoping to find someone who has the skills that you have, which I really, really love, and that is understanding what to do in code, but with an eye for design, and to have this way to find the best and most pragmatic solution to what we're doing at the moment. So I just wanted to share that up front. If anyone's looking for a developer they can hire, try to get Tulsi. He's super awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for putting that out there. But with full honesty, I had no clue about what's going to come next. So I just wanted to quickly help you out with a particular solution. But later down the line, I realized, okay, there's so much happening out there, so we can do a lot of stuff and in less amount of time. So that's probably one reason we are working at the pace that we are currently working.
Yeah. And this is actually where the inspiration from this video came from. So as we said, today we're going to talk about actual web developer AI tooling, and we're not going to talk about the fanciest new model or anything. We're going to talk about our experiences from the last half year of creating one website after the other, working on existing ones, like actual agency day-to-day life. And this is what we want to talk about, and when we want to share our really real experiences, like what worked, what didn't work. But before we get into that, Tulsi, maybe you can share a little bit more about yourself and also your own agency.
Yeah, perfect. So my name is Tulsi Prasad, and I am from eastern part of India. I love traveling, and I started developing since my college days. But thinking back, I see there's a lot of development change that has been happening since then. So pretty much now my day-to-day activities are completely hell and heaven difference from how I started off developing. So I think it's all happened for a good reason. We ran a small agency of 5 to 6 tightly knitted people, and it's called Pixbox Labs. And we also help out people integrating AI solutions in their day-to-day workflows. So there kind of can be a lot of different ERP or CRM applications who people need to spend half an hour do a task, but we kind of go there and integrate a agentic workflow which they can do it in 5 minutes. So that's the that's the problem I had to solve as an agency owner myself. And while that happened, I explored a lot of different toolings out there, and being a developer myself, that curiosity in my brain kicked in, how can I automate my job? So
yeah.
how can I make it easier for me? And from there, it has been a upward spiral kind of journey. And every single tool that comes out, I try to think of it as in an open mind and see how it can help us. And there's a lot of tools that are not that helpful right now. So yeah, it's kind of a open mindset that I give towards everything. And right now, I think we are at the age that we can proudly say that, yeah, all our development workflow is really more advanced and so much faster than it used to be even 3 to 4 months back. And That's why we're
Yeah.
here. So
Super exciting. Yeah. And so maybe before we get into that, which sounds super exciting, and I agree,
yeah.
like there's many things that improve the way that we're working here too. Could you share a little bit about how you got into web development originally? Like before the AI, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
right? So yeah. So how did you get interested in it, and how did you learn?
So to be honest, I started off thinking of like let's learn some programming at least before I go into a college degree. So I explored like top programming languages, and Python was one of the highest paid top languages back then. I think in 2018 or 2019. But once I started developing using Python, I didn't understand basically how can I share it with friends or how can I use it to solve a real problem. Because I think there's a little higher learning curve in that areas. Like kind of a coincidence. At the same time, my one of our clubs back in my school was needing a website. So kind of I started off using like tools which are no code builders. And this is back then in 2018. Like right now we have like Framer, Webflow, so many things. But
Yeah.
back then I think I used something like Weebly or something.
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
remember that
Weebly,
one. Yeah,
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 Weebly,
totally.
Wix, and all those things. And I kind of didn't like the templates were so limited, and you could not actually like customize a lot of things. So then I thought, what if we just learned this web development and I could host my website for free on some of the hosting providers, and even you had to pay for Wix and Weebly, all those things.
Yeah.
So I started learning HTML and JavaScript, and there are a lot of free resources online. So I just used them to learn. And before I even spend any money, I had like 3 to 4 websites already built. So I was
Really
like, yeah, if I am going to
awesome.
spend some money on it, let's just learn it so good so that I'll be able to make it back some way. And that's
But you
how
did
I,
this on the side while being in college, so to say, like
yeah, yeah,
just on
yeah.
your own time, not in school or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Because mostly it was out of curiosity to, yeah, let's just solve this problem. Let's just, build a calculator which you can use in like in your phone or something like that. So all these
Yeah.
teeny tiny problems, I thought it would be really great if I can solve it and also share it with other people as well. So
So
that's my,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
intro
yeah.
to
And
web.
I think so. I can absolutely relate to that story. Me and my co founder, Dan, for example, we both got into web development for the same reason. Like we were designers before, and we had this frustration that I think you were describing as well. Like, how can I share this with my friends now? Like, how can I make this real and to actually give this to someone easily to, well,
Yeah,
interact
play
with
around.
and use and exactly. And so for that, web development was always like the most tangible thing, right? Like you
Correct.
can make
Yeah.
something in Python that does amazing stuff, but like it's
Mm.
mostly in the terminal and then it runs and it does things, and sure, but like to then have something visual for people to click on or to see.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I love web development for that to this day. I would say that
exactly.
it's just the quickest way to get something up and running. And so probably getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but there's a lot of talk about AI tooling and how we're potentially going to be out of a job as a web developer and all these things, you know, like I guess like our current bubble is in outrage in all sorts of different ways, and positive or negative, I would say the whole development of AI tooling is at least rattling the cages, and people are getting excited one way or the other, like
Yeah.
in panic or positive or somewhere in between on that spectrum. How do you feel about all of this story? Like what's your idea about it?
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good way to look at it, because a lot of the people right now are like thinking, hey, this is a magic one step solution that can solve all our business problems. But every non AI related company also wants to use AI right now. But the kind of way I look at it is, what is it going to solve? So it's a pretty like I was giving this other example other day to my friend that right now people are even if people are eating outside, everybody has a refrigerator. They just buy a refrigerator, but
Yeah.
now it's not being used and also racking up your electricity bills because you are eating
Yeah.
outside.
Exactly.
So, so the way I look at it is like how it is going to help you in some ways. Like for me as a developer, I had the a singular bottleneck in my workflow. Like I had to create planning, let's say, or even, for example, interact with a lot of different applications. Like I am fetching a issue from GitHub or a project item from Linear. So all of those manual interaction is now automated in a using agents. So this is like the solution to a problem previously which I had was like repetitive manual interactions. So this is kind of the way we are kind of like being helped with AI right now. And
Hmm.
I feel like everybody should think of the problems that they have and how AI can solve it instead of, okay, here's ChatGPT Pro. Now what do I do with it?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly. So you're saying
but
like
yeah.
try to find really specific things that
Mm.
are a bottleneck, that are some sort of
Right.
manual labor that could
Mm.
potentially be automated or at least connected in a little bit of a smarter way. So you do
Yeah.
less of manual clicking and copying or something like that.
Right. Yeah, that's actually what I meant to say. And also, one very related example to our talk is like with all of our projects, like mostly we use Sanity like as the CMS platform. Very recently, we were like manually adding content to Sanity Studio ourselves.
Yeah.
So imagine we are bootstrapping a website, we spend 2 to 3 hours maybe to like add manual content.
Yeah.
But that's what I did here differently, that I integrated Sanity's MCP, which kind of used AI to create content, which is even far better at all languages, let's say English, German, everything, better
Yeah.
than me. And it created the content. It directly put that in our CMS. So imagine if it saved 3 hours for me, like it's unimaginable how much it can do for like all of us. So,
And yes, so let's spend a moment on that thought because I think that's very interesting. So Talsi, you and I started to build this website for a customer of ours, right? And the
yeah.
job was to, like what you helped me with a lot and in a ridiculously quick time was to set up the entire website. And so for web developers, we all know setting up a website, like you're never getting to your favorite part of what you're doing right away. Like for me, my favorite part is to finally work on the layout and to make everything super responsive and, you know, like working on every screen size. And that's what I like to do. I think it's a good example to illustrate what you're saying, because to get to that point, there's so much stuff that you have to do before that, and including content is for sure one thing. And so to just be able to work on the layout of one website, if it's the real thing, then as you say, there's either some placeholder content in the design or there's actual content, but like somehow it has to go into the place that's going to drive the website later, which is usually the content management system or like a bunch of markdown files or like anything. But you have to transform the format of however you got it. Like for many websites, I actually receive a whole bunch of Word files in OneDrive or like a Google Drive with a bunch of spreadsheets and some documents here. And then somebody has a pitch presentation there and you're supposed to get all of this stuff into a website now, which is just so not exciting to do, right? Like these are the 3 hours that you're talking about where you're like, copy paste. Copy paste here.
Copy from Figma, and there's 5 different frames you need to copy from.
Exactly.
So like that's mind blowing.
Exactly.
Super
and then
irritating.
Remove the formatting from whatever you copied.
Yeah.
Cool. So all of that said, we wanted to talk about workflows that actually, and you started to describe one right now, like Sanity and the MCP server. So Sanity is, if you don't know it, is a headless content management system hosted in the cloud, has APIs. They even have like their own query language if you want it. Like, But so it's a whole platform to build content warehouses basically in a very, very quick way, but it's also very extensible. And that's what we usually use as the backend. And then for the front end, in this example, we're using Next.js, which is probably very well known. We also used Astro and SvelteKit before, so it doesn't really matter. So before we get into this recording, you described your workflow of setting up the skeleton of the website with content, with different sections that we can use in a page builder way on Sanity, and to have other schema documents to take information about people from, or testimonials, all this sort of stuff you were able to put together in I don't know, 2 days or something. I remember that I was hey, Tulsi, can you help me set up this website? And then at least I felt like it was the next day. You're here's the whole thing, enjoy. And I'm what? How on earth did you do that? So I think there's a whole bunch of stories in there. Maybe you can walk us through how you approached the process. I think that's also very interesting, because there's knowledge that was probably not coming from an AI to decide how to approach this problem. From me saying on Slack, hey, can you help me build a website? What do you do then? If you can walk us through that a little bit, I think that would be very interesting.
I think where we should start from is what exactly happened while we were starting this project. So initially you sent all the Figma screens, which was one of the main reasons we were able to do it so fast, because a lot of things were already thought out of. I think at least 80% of the things were already thought out, and all the pages were there, which kind of got rid of the imagination part. And then we basically took each landing page and bifurcated what exactly things are there, the schemas in compared to in a structured layout schema. So we used Excalidraw first of all to distribute different things and play out what the schema of particular sections should be like. And after all of this planning is done, we have already done 80% of the thought work. Now it's just the time for coding and starting the website. I think one more best part which we forgot was basically we were starting this from a already Radiant template, which was already a setup of Sanity Studio, as well as the all the page structure. So that was kind of another helping point. So
that's a good
combine
call out
all
too.
this.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So pretty much as everything was set up, we didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and we didn't have to set up Tailwind or any Sanity, anything. So that's how we got started of it. And I think that's a very fast way to bootstrap any website. And and quickly I can show you the exact workflow which I used, and then it would be even more making sense of how was it possible in completing in 2 days.
Very cool. Yeah. So I'm just sharing quickly. That's the design that you were talking about. That's the what we received initially, and so it's not super involved. It's just 4 pages, so to say. And this last one over here, that's going to be one which we have multiple of, because it's going to be a profile page for different people, essentially. So I think what's very interesting, and what you said where we were planning with Excalidraw, which sections are here and how can we slice this design up, is that looking at this design, we just figured out hey, this is a hero section, and this is another section, and this is one thing. And these, we're going to put all of those into Sanity in a way that you can make as many pages as you like, just selecting the template for the section block to put in new information, right? So this text here, for example, we're going to have a section that just has a gigantic headline, and it can be whatever content, of course, we're not going to hard code it. And this is where we have to do a lot of things on Sanity right? Like to set up the schema for each of these blocks and say, okay, so this one has a headline and it has these funny tag things and another text and like 2 buttons, and decide a little bit how how flexible we want to make the schema, right? Like, is this like, does it has exactly 4 fields for these things, or are there other blocks where you maybe want to make it a little bit more flexible? And so these sort of decisions were ones that you had to make when setting up this whole website. And then the other thing that you mentioned is, I just want to call this out, that this is a paid thing that we use. So like, this is something that comes from Tailwind Plus that we paid for. So just calling that out. But this is what you mentioned. It's a startup project that already has Next.js set up, Tailwind. It comes with Framer Motion installed, TypeScript, and also crucially, the connection to Sanity, at least, right? But that does not include all of the different sections that we, like the way that we needed them, right?
Yeah. I think we kind of customized it like 95% anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
But just the only help was like we didn't have to install the packages and all those things, which kind of saved like I think at least half a day of work, and also very mind-boggling work, so which we don't like to do usually. So that's the best part.
I think it's like, for me, it always more of a designer than a web developer, I would say, that this whole setting up of Vite configurations and routing and like all of this stuff, like I'm very happy if somebody does that for me.
I think this is also a good project idea in future. If there was some agent that kind of helped you all integrate all of this and in a very personalized way just for you, because not everybody will use Tailwind or like, let's say, Framer Motion or Sanity. So you can just pick all this, particular ingredients, and it will give you like whole package. Here's your platter. Go ahead.
That actually works, right? And that doesn't.
Yeah, that actually works. Yeah.
That gives you like, oh, and this package is outdated because it's React 19 point whatever thing, and the somewhere down the NPM tree, like. All right, cool. But so we had the design, we had the template. What now? What do we do now?
Yeah. If you mind, I can share my screen and I will show you exactly what we did.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I never saw this in action, like the Figma MCP server and so on. So I'm very excited.
Yeah. And it's kind of very interesting because I also used, I think, for very first or second time in my life for this project, and this was a very critical project. So I am all happy with the results and still mind blown also.
Nice.
This was the first thing that we did. So took out all the Figma components and like for each frames, and it was important because we are using like the page builder approach, and for in that case, like everything is dynamic. So if the client wants to like for some reason like switch the order of these components or like change anything, let's like add a button or different color, everything can be done from the content management platform. So that's just zero development time. So all of it is like very dynamic. So this was a little bit of initial setup of discussing very surgically like what all things that can be like added or like removed in future. So once that is done, I basically got to my code editor. We can just for the sake of convenience, let's say I just show you what we did. So just you can go to like your work directory and run npxkit app, and so this is exactly what we did. And after all of this was done, I kind of used like a AI agent to convert this visual thing to like a text-based format, and so that all of our team developers can also refer to it, and it will kind of act like a global memory for the agent also. So so that's one thing I have in the like inside our code as well. So this is the exact repository we have, and the main brains of all the AI agents are inside this one file called Claude.md file. So it has all the information. I think I trimmed it down a little bit after we are done with something. But for example, this is like a profile page, and it tells all the things that are that we need to create. For example, this is what it's talking about. So this is a hero section, for example, and it tells the agent to understand, okay, this is what it should be inside a hero, like the image, the label, heading, and we are using the atomic structure here, so which is even more better for the AIs, because it will go ahead and like create one singular task instead of creating the entire hero section. So once we had like all the brains of our discussion got into the code, like we prepared this markdown file, which is like a global context, then we kind of went ahead and like start out a Cloud Code agent, which I primarily use to develop. So the interesting part about it is, like, once you create a Claude.md file, wherever in your repository, Claude feeds it into its memory automatically. So you don't even have to like say, hey, read from this file and do this thing. So it already knows.
And does it have to be at the root, or can it be wherever, like the Claude.md file?
Yeah. So it can be at the root. So I have one at the root which like specifies like some very repetitive commands, like after every run just do pnpm build, and like the type checks on all of those, so that it never gives me code that doesn't work. So once it's done coding, it will just run this, and it's like the safest application of this file that I've still used.
All right. Okay, but
to answer your question, it can be anywhere. So once you can keep it at the root as well. So it will be like a system prompt for all of your agent interactions. But let's say, for example, you have a particular like very complex folder in your application, like let's say library. This is a very complex folder. So you can create a Claude.md file inside this as well, and put specific to that folder instructions. So whenever it comes across this file or refers this file, it will refer to the system prompt of this folder, which is like even more specific instructions that this is what this file represents. So
amazing.
That's even
awesome. Yeah. So hold on, let's recap for a little bit. You had the Excali draw tool. That's basically just a way like a little bit like a virtual whiteboard. That could probably be anything. That could be FigJam or Miro or like whatever.
Yeah.
Like just to make a visual plan of which part is of the design is going to be an individual section, which fields are going to be into it. And so like the text that is next to the images here, that's what you wrote, right? Like that's manual
this
work.
Is what we wrote and also planned. But I also got help using AI, because I am using it constantly. So what I did was I gave like the exact frame link to the Claude agent, and it kind of brainstormed like an overall structure with a lot of different fields, which and I just took the best fields that I actually needed. Like it's basically
you pasted the link to a frame as like one group inside of the Figma design file, and then it came out to suggest stuff that it saw in the picture, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what I did. Like I selected the entire landing page, and I just copy as link to selection. And I pasted inside a Claude Code agent, and it kind of brainstormed the entire thing first of all, but it was like I think 50% wrong. So I gave it more help. Like, okay, this is what I mean by atomic structure. I gave it some blog articles, different examples I found in GitHub, even our other projects, and then it did a little bit better.
Interesting.
Which was like saving hours of our time, like thinking manually, like what is an atom, what is a molecule, what is an organism. So
amazing.
This is how it's yeah, it has helped us to bootstrap this quickly.
And do you think it would help theoretically? So I guess the way that this works
Mhm.
is that any Figma file is essentially a gigantic JSON blob, right? And so it's able
Right.
to read through that, I suppose. Or do you think it's actually analyzing the image? Not sure.
I don't. There was a way, even using like the Figma MCP, that it will copy paste the image entirely to
Ooh.
your repository.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that much success with it. But in our case, like we didn't do we went hard coding the images anyways. So I just asked it to ignore the images for now. I will add it
Ah,
myself to Sanity.
okay.
So that's how like it got. But yeah, it can visually see your images, and I have seen examples online where people kind of give the exact link to a landing page,
Mm.
and it just builds out the exact landing page frame by frame. uh, all of it is hard coded probably, but it's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
like so much better than like manually doing it.
So okay, cool.
Hmm.
So that's, I think, a very interesting thing, that many people might be interested to get started, as you say, right? Like, so you copy a link
Yeah,
to a specific part of your Figma design. I guess the link has to be publicly accessible. So I mean, there's not really a way to
hmm,
invite Claude
yeah,
code to
yeah,
your Figma file. But so like that, this is possible to paste it there. And to get like a starting point for schema discussions. I think that's very cool. Um, and
hmm,
this is then what you put into Claude files to have a
right.
system prompt, right? To tell it, okay, this is the plan for the individual parts that we're going to make.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, once it had the system prompt, it always knew what to do. So never I had to explain, hey, you are a very great agent and you are good in coding. We are building this Sensi Plan website. Please help me do this. All the time it knew what we were doing. So even it helped you save more context, save more time, and kind of it is giving you more accurate results even in a single prompt. So this is what the system prompt is helping us do right now.
All right. Let's stop for a
Sure.
minute because we arrived at the point where we're talking about Claude Code, right? Um,
Right, right, right.
so what other tools did you try before? Like what did you do the last half year when tinkering with all of these different models coming out and with like, so, I mean, there's,
Right.
what else? There's like GitHub Copilot and there's Cursor and there's like
Hmm.
all these different sort of things. Um, can you
Yeah.
maybe briefly go through your journey of how you arrived at the setup you have today?
So Cloud Code is actually quite expensive. So I didn't try it out very first, as it was like a 200 bucks a month subscription. So I kind of tried out with smaller tools and more accessible tools like GitHub Copilot in the beginning. And I think now GitHub Copilot is very improved, but back then it was not that agentic. So it was just like a chat based tool. So you ask the question like, hey, so can you find a bug here? And it will just give you the solution, but it will not implement it yourself. So
Yeah.
this is like the agent mode versus the singular chat mode. So that's what GitHub Copilot wasn't good at back then, but now I think that's the agent mode as well. Down the line, I realized it's more about the actual prompt as well as the model and its capabilities. So then I kind of after trying out models like GPT-4 back then, and different other providers like DeepSeek and other things, I kind of
Yeah.
always stuck with Claude's models. So even with other tools like Cursor is the editor I work with. So I started out with Cursor as well. So Cursor was like a 20 bucks a month subscription. So I took it, and most of them, after trying a lot of things, I felt like I was sticking more to like Claude 4 Sonnet or Claude 3.7 Sonnet back then.
Yeah.
So that was my like direction towards like Cloud Code, because I was constantly on the market to what are they developing, what is Anthropic developing next. So then I realized,
Interesting.
okay, so Cloud Code is a really interesting tool. So I kind of tried it out, and since then I've been a regular customer of it.
Amazing. And so, I mean, Cloud Code is kind of, it doesn't really have a UI like Cursor does,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah, yeah,
Cursor so is
yeah.
fully integrated and it's based on VS Code and it does all of this
Hmm.
really integrated UI driven experience for you. And
Yeah,
Cloud Code is just a terminal app sorta and it right like
right.
does all of this stuff. I'm also back to Claude Code actually. Like
Okay.
we tried an alternative to VS Code which is called Z for a
Hmm.
while. I think my co-founder Dan is still using it, and it has, I think it works a lot more like Cursor does. So it has this UI integration
Right.
and you chat with it, but it can go and do agentic things, like knows about
Right.
all of the tabs and goes there and edits things and right all of these
Right.
workflows. So how do you feel about this UI integration versus how the way that Claude Code works today? Yeah.
So I'll tell you where Cloud Code actually stands out, because this is a very common question even with some of the developers I have worked, as well as some of the clients, because Cursor is pretty accessible and also visually appealing, so everybody knows what it actually does. So I think the primary difference where Cloud Code stands out is that it's terminal based. So one of the coolest use cases I have yet seen is like, if it's on a terminal, I can basically like share my computer's terminal to my mobile or iPad. And whenever I go for a walk or go outside, I just have access to my terminal. So that means I have access to Cloud Code. And I can basically ask it questions or like,
That's
so
so
even,
cool.
yeah, which Cursor probably has like a small part of it with background agents as well, which you can basically fire it off from anywhere and it will use a GitHub action based GitHub PR to your repo.
Yeah.
But I felt that more restricting, because as we are front end developers, after all, for us it's very important to see the front end while
Yeah.
coding.
Yeah.
So, but in a background agent, it just does a PR, but you cannot see it. I realized, like, yeah, with Cloud Code, you can actually get access to your terminal, and as it's terminal based, you can also understand, like, ask it to visit localhost 3000 or other stuff, so
Yeah.
that it and visually sees the front end, and also I can see the front end from my mobile or other devices. So
Very
that's
cool.
one area. But I have seen like a lot of use cases which I haven't used personally. Like, people have it in different terminals, like in AWS or cloud environments, like in using in GitHub Actions. So you can directly mention @Claude that, hey, so here's a potential bug. So can you solve it? And it will just add a new commit to your PR. So
Yeah.
that's somewhere it stands out.
Awesome. And so, do you have something that really didn't work very well in with, I don't know, with Claude
Mhm.
Code or with any other AI tooling before? So like, I know that I had a bit of a journey to understand how to use it, like the way that I use it today. And I, like at some point, for example, like this infamous thing that people talk about all the time is that I just vibe coded this entire app. And it's super awesome.
Right.
Okay. So yeah. So I wanted to try, and just to see what happens. And I think I did that still with Z, but using Claude. And so I literally went on a like blank repo, like the empty folder, open Z and have, I think, Git in it or something. And then said,
Yeah.
so I want a web app for my son where he can see, his pocket money, and I wanted to be able to every week to add pocket money to it. And then I said things like, I think it would probably be interesting if the adding of pocket money every week would be like a cron job on GitHub Actions, just because I have access to that anyway. And then it can call an API route to add the amount to Superbase, right? So, and I also said,
Right.
I want this to be a SvelteKit app, and I think the backend should be Superbase, and like had like this like whole story written up.
Yeah.
And then it went to do that. And like, first of all, like it ran for half an hour. I don't know, just went
Yeah, that's I
nuts,
think
right?
a better
Like
thing.
you
Yeah.
can really watch it do the thing and then question itself and then it breaks. And then like, since you have the browser open on localhost, you can kind of see errors flash and then it does that. And so like all of this is very interesting to watch. But also like while I was sitting there watching the thing do it, I was wondering, like it was spitting out so many files and so much code at the same, like in a very quick pace, that for me, I had this starting like this mounting anxiety that I would probably never really be able to read through all of that code. Right? Like it was scaffolding an entire app with different components and with like, I didn't really specify how to style this or to do like, so I didn't even know if it were creating like CSS classes or if it was using Tailwind or if it, you know?
Yeah.
And with this project, I have to say it's up and running and it's working. So we did it. Like it probably cost me like $100 in Claude tokens, I would say.
Wow.
Or something like that. And it was like, as you initially also said, it was for sure not one shot. Like I actually, after all, I think I spent hours discussing with Claude because I didn't really dare to go into the code. Result of it now is that we have an app. It's running, it's doing its thing. And when it stops doing its thing because something, I don't know, there was one bug in it. And then I could go to Claude and say, hey, look, so I think the bug is this and that. And can you go check? And then it goes off again and tries to find the bug. And I was being very vague because I didn't know the code, right? Like it spit out everything.
Right.
And so I couldn't really say, look, I think the behavior of this is happening somewhere here. Like I could just say, there's weird behavior. Go find it.
Yeah.
And so that experience for me at least showed me that that you got to be careful with context. Like it has like the context windows are getting bigger and bigger. Like we all know that that's fine, but they're really not infinite. And at some point it also starts to like I felt then whenever the context was going over 50% or something, like I already had the feeling of like, oh, this is probably not going to work out. And so I don't know, how do you feel about all of these sort of things? Like, how did you learn to get into the work mode with what you have today?
So I like to highlight one specific thing which I learned from like internet or YouTube, whatever you call it, is like the most important principle in like vibe coding or AI coding, whatever you said, is like model, context, and prompt. So the right combination of these three things can give us like the best result or at least the most accurate result to what you want. So for me right now, I have been experimenting with a lot of different models, and even though I am a like most primary primary user of Cloud Code, I have seen some of the areas that it doesn't kind of get it. So no matter how many times I try to prompt it or accurately give it screenshots or whatever, it doesn't get it. So very recently, I'll give you a real example. So I was making this desktop application in a Rust-based framework called Tauri, which I have no idea how the syntax looks even. I was just trying to vibe code this thing, but the best part is it uses like web frameworks like Next.js, like kind of all this Tailwind or other web tooling that we have. So it started off you building the application using Shadcn, which is like all this UI components and all those things. But later I realized this is very complicated. So let's just use Tailwind and Daisy UI, which is like a Tailwind based component library. So I asked Cloud Code to prepare a plan and kind of migrate my app from Shadcn to this. But even though it did everything syntactically correct, which is like zero TypeScript errors, zero build errors, all of those things. But the app did not quite look good at all. So it made a black and white application, and all of the widgets were like overlapping with each other.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind because I was such a big advocate of like Claude 4, Claude 4 Opus and all those models. But then I tried out, as I had Cursor, I tried out GPT-5, which is the newest model from OpenAI. And it kind of like actually, to be honest, it actually one-shotted the UI of it. And I don't know, maybe it was like a combination of both models, but I think the GPT-5 there was a bit more visually correct. So it did some of the stuff which was like kind of mind-blowing to me. Like all the widgets are in right place, the theme was correct. So here, I think we just have to be like a lot more open to switching between different tools rather
Yeah.
than like favoritism, like our one particular tool. Like, hey, I love Cursor or I love Lovable, so I'll just use it. I'll
For
just ignore all of
everything.
those things.
Right.
For
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. And that's always the problem, right? That's been a like opinionated framework choices have been a thing way before AI, as we all know. And
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point to say, like, there's a tool for each job, and we got to be open to choosing the right tool, right?
Yeah, based on the task at our hand. And also good learning I took from you was like using Z, which you said. Like even though I haven't completely migrated to Z, but I was facing this weird bug with Cursor from very like long many months. So it was like I have all this Cursor windows open. Like I have 4 to 5 Cursor windows all running Cloud Code or different agents. And suddenly, all of a sudden, all the windows disappeared. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened? Like, there was no warning, nothing. I also had a lot of RAM, so that's not the root cause. But I later down the line I realized it's an open bug in Cursor, and the people are not actually paying attention to it. And I have tweeted about it, but it kind of got lost. So
Yeah.
now I am planning to switch my primary editor from Cursor to something like more Rust based and more, even like very old Sublime text works, because now everything happens in a CLI. So
Yeah, that's also interesting, right? Like that since Rust became a thing, I have the feeling there's another tool to make applications on a desktop that people are sort of trusting more. Like we have all of these Electron apps, and VS Code is like everywhere, of course. But yeah, what if your tooling breaks? Then you got to be open to new stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So
awesome. Hey, I wanted to share like a quick, super concrete workflow that I did with Claude Code on the code base that we had. And hold on, so let's see if this works. Like I did it yesterday, and I wonder if I can reproduce it easily. So I'm actually like now, like for this, I'm actually currently on VS Code and not Z, just because like Claude Code also would run in Z's terminal, of course. But like there's like a little VS Code extension for Claude Code that I actually kind of like.
Right.
It doesn't do a lot, but I think it just tells Claude Code which file is open or which lines of code you selected. So all right. So I'm just gonna start this up here. This is like the Next.js side, and let's check. Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I worked on already, like the nav bar and the hero section and so on. And now this is, by the way, like the design that we see right now, this is what Claude Code did when, after talking to the MCP server of Figma, right? Like this code came from you, like in the initial scaffold, so to say.
Right. Yeah, right.
Can you talk about that for just a little bit before I get into my thing? Because I think it's pretty, I mean, let's look at the design file.
Right.
Like it's not super 100% or anything, but I would say it's pretty impressive of what it did here.
Yeah.
How did it come to that?
So quite interestingly, like even though I used like FrameLink, MCP and all those things, but the layout here is a little complex. So like we have the name, the area and all those buttons, and not to mention everything is coming from our CMS. So it's not hard coded. So it's even more complex.
Yes.
So what I started off doing was like started off with the Figma MCP as well. So gave the link to the frame. But when I realized like some parts of it was like actually getting stuck or was not more accurate, I took screenshots from Figma and just pasted in Claude Code that, hey, so this is how it looks in Figma. And you use like some MCPs like browser MCP or playwright MCP. And until and unless it matches the screenshot exactly, do not stop.
Oh, really?
So,
yeah. That's amazing. Okay, so just to illustrate what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, so this is the sanity component that it came up with. Like, and I want to call out, like, we're not even, so like it says Susanne in Köln and like all of this sort of information. And like it's even a little bit more complicated than this, because like the way this works on Sanity is this is just a reference to a document about one person that we have in another collection, right? And so it's pulling the bits and pieces that it wants, that it needs for this to show up. Like it pulls that from there, right? And the job is to arrange it visually so it looks like that. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the content thing works pretty much easily. I think the UI can be a lot improved with a little bit of CSS tweaks. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I mean, I think that's very impressive that this works. If we look into, so I think it's called consultant grid.
I think it's called most popular consultants or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Like, cool. Yeah.
Is that the component you're talking about, right? Yeah.
Right. And so this is the code that came out of all of your prompting with Claude Code, right? Like this is just what it came up with. And it's using Tailwind, like it's doing some sort of like hard-coded font sizes here and colors, but like generally, I think it's very impressive still, like what it came up with, just because like it kind of works.
The reason it's trying to hard code all this stuff, because as we are using like the Figma NCP, it has access to the actual values of all the background colors or like the particular font size. So yeah, it can be just another prompt you write for globally like sorting down or aligning all these different variables into config files. So yeah.
All right. And so like for me, like my job now is to make this website as responsive and fluid and as possible. And so one thing that I would do now with Claude Code is, and this is also something I just want to shout that out, is like I'm a little bit particular about these things. And so as I said somewhere in the beginning of the video, like I wanted to mainly focus on layout. And so for me, it's super helpful that all of this, right? Like all of this comes from variables already. And it's like, it has empty checks and it does all of the stuff that I don't want to do. That's already there. And so I worked on this component already, and changed the way that the layout works quite a lot, but just because I have a lot of opinions about this. So I would say this stuff is like, I didn't want the hard coded values here, right? Like I wanted the equivalent of what I have defined as design tokens in my Tailwind configuration. I wanted this to be used here. So, and you could totally do that, right? Like, I mean, you could just, instead of doing this, you could just say text 6, and then you're like, you can do that manually. And so one thing that was super helpful for me to do this is like, I knew that I was going to be quicker if I just start fresh with all the class names. So I just started Claude Code in here and asked it to do something super simple. So like it knows now that this file is open. And I literally just asked it like, hey, please remove all class names and inline styling from the component. Reduce the markup to the minimum needed to retain the structure, and destructure all variables needed in the template. And so then you do that. And for me, that was always super helpful to get like super quickly to a clean slate that I could just get into and work with. And it's like a very small task too. So it's always very quick. Like it's, right? Like, let's see how long it takes.
One more technical thing I am just like, very curious and interested to tell here is like, if you are doing this a lot of many times, like multiple times, writing the same prompt. So we can basically create a most used command, which is like a collection of prompts. And you can just write that / command and it will do the same thing for you without typing all of this. And we can store it in the repo itself, so it can be like used by all of our team members.
Awesome. Because I did that all over again. Like, so what it did now, I mean, like, let's look at this. So first of all, like I just like when this stuff is as short as possible in the template. So you can see, profile image URL, and it's not like, the consultant.profile image URL and that stuff. And so it took all of this and took it to the bare minimum. And I can just go in now and apply my classes that I've been using throughout the entire project, which just makes it super quick for me. And I didn't have to do all of that stuff. Right?
Right.
And so now I, of course, completely destroyed it. Right? But still, like, this was a thing that before would have taken me like 10 minutes, I guess, to go through.
At the very least. Yeah.
Exactly. And so now I did that and could just, think about what I want to do next while it did all of these changes, which is super helpful for me. And another example that I wanted to share, because I thought it worked very well, is, so we have this component with the grid, right? And in the design, they wanted to have a little filter bar here. So you can just filter by the city or by the language. And so, let's see if that works, like right now in live. But so again, like, it knows the file that I have open, and I just said, okay, so please help me always be polite to the agent, implement a simple filter bar to filter the grid items by city and language. Compile the available options for city and language from what's available in all grid items. Please use a select element for city and language, and also include a reset filters button. All this can be client-side JavaScript only, and you don't have to apply styling. I can do that afterwards. Dang. And
Now we
yeah,
wait.
like, and I think what's sort of important is that you kind of know what you want, right? Like, if I would
Exactly.
just say, please help me implement a filter bar, it would probably do
Yeah.
it, but you
Yeah.
don't really know what it's gonna do, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Like, how specific do you get when you ask
So
for
so
these
this
sort of
is
things?
this is exactly this is exactly what I wanted to discuss, because this fits right into the analogy that I had. So imagine you are sitting in a Uber or like a cab, and you tell your driver to take me to this place called B.
Yeah.
But now what we are doing, and which is like a good way of prompting, is like giving the exact location in a Google Maps and opening it up in a navigation application, and
Yeah.
showing exactly by which path it should go. So this is how the you can get best results out of like agents like Cloud Code or Cursor.
All right. And so, like, I mean, let's check what it did. But I think this was even faster than the first time that I did it. And I really like these summaries that it does. So it's like state management. I have, like state hooks now and dynamic options. And so let's check. Like, this is
Yeah.
what it did. These are all
Oh
the
wow.
cities.
Oh wow.
And
It
it just
works
filters
actually.
in. It's like, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, and this is so I think my point is that we could all do that. Like, we're front end developers. That's what we did for most of our careers. And so what it did now is just in the consultant's grid component, like it added state, right? For the selected city and language. That's what I would have done. Then it goes through, and that's what I asked it to do. Like, it takes all of the entries that were coming into the component and tries to filter for the cities.
Yeah.
And then I think it has like a really modern approach to even kill out the duplicates, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's also pretty cool.
To
Yeah.
spread in a new set, I think that's a very modern
Yeah.
approach you could do that in a more complicated way. And then just appends a little sort, which is also very nice. And so it does that for the cities and the languages, and then just ramps up this little, using even with the use memo hook to be mindful of memory and stuff. Has a super minimal reset filter button, and then this is what it did. It said like, hey, here's my filter bar. I don't know. There's no styling. That's what you asked for. Enjoy. Right?
Yeah.
And
it's
these sort of
interesting to
things.
see. Yeah, it's interesting to see that all of it is done by default. So you didn't ask it to use memo or like use
Yeah.
set instead of other ways. So it's just that smart by default. So that's the best part about it.
And like, I mean, I wasn't even aware that we had Claude MD files. Do you think it used some of your instructions now? Like, without me knowing, actually?
So yes, it kind of did, but as the means root Cloud MD file was not that like comprehensive, it was just like a few lines.
Yeah.
It kind of did not got any help from it. But we can do a lot of
True.
things. Like here, if you mention like your specific config files, like let's say always use config that you find inside tailwind.css.
Yeah.
And you can like customize the code that agent writes,
yeah.
and all of these things you can just have to write once and it memorizes it, so you don't have to like always keep on iterating.
So I could do something like for example, like many projects I think still use Tailwind 3, and the upgrade from 3 to 4 was pretty substantial because it's now all in CSS, right? So I could just say like, this project uses Tailwind 4, and the main config file is called tailwind.css. And so whenever I ask for CSS stuff, then it would include this automatically.
Yeah. And you can be more assertive, like you must use the variables that you find inside this, and do not ever hard code, so that it kind of always gives you like very stricter code rather than just like any vibe code that you can do earlier.
Very
This is so much
cool.
better.
That is very cool. Yeah, awesome. So
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think the last year or so, like when all of this was ramping up, and like all of these agentic code helpers came out, right? Like all sorts of different things, new models, and so on. I think at least my take is that you got to know what you're asking for, so
Yeah.
that we entirely replace web developers is, I think, that's just not what's going to happen, because like if we have no one who can judge what the thing is doing, then we'll just suffocate under a mountain of code that nobody understands. So I think the way that you're using all of the tools is a very good example of figuring out what really helps and how to apply it in a way that you're still in control. Because like when I vibe coded this entire app, I didn't feel in control anymore. And I think I'm never gonna get into control if I don't take like 2 days to read through the code that it made. So I think this is, at least in the current state of things, this is sort of how, like, I feel it's important that also junior developers have the chance to properly learn what's out there, like what's the tech and how does it come together and what is the framework and how, like, all of the things that you learned also before getting into AI. And now this knowledge really enables us to use to judge which tool helps and which actually convolutes the process. How do you feel about all of that?
Yeah. So one interesting thought that keeps coming back to my mind is that AI isn't going to replace developers, but the people using AI will. That's a really strong way to portray that at the current age, like, yet AGI is not yet here, so we all are safe. So the way that we are all going is like it is going to be more helpful for us to, like, helpful for developers and other people to do their jobs easily. But it's not just gonna wake up in the morning and do this job for you, whereas you have to tell it exactly, like, hey, this is what I want, and it will just help you get there faster. So I love the analogy that is the same thing. Like earlier the people were riding on horses and then cars came along, so the navigation is the same, but now people used cars instead of horses. So it's just the same thing, but moving faster.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this car is especially, this tech shift is probably really one of the most substantial that we've seen up till now, because it can take decisions for you, right? Like the car, you still were in charge. Like it could drive quicker, but you still, like, it doesn't go anywhere if you don't do anything, right? And that's different with AI. So, and I think that's also like to view technology improvements the way that you just described it. I absolutely agree. I just think that this time it takes a little bit more from us to not fall into the trap of just letting the thing do the driving. Because if we do that, then anything that comes down the road will be more impactful than it might be otherwise. So I just listened to this podcast episode from Chris Koya and Dave Rupert, and Dave said he had this example working at Microsoft where the junior developer just vibe coded that feature, and his superior did reviewed the PR with an AI, and then he was the last one in the chain, just did his thing as the old person, so to say, and was like, okay, I'm going to read through this code. And it took him like 2 days to go through this code and understand what it really does. And then he went back to the guys and said like, hey, why does it do this and that? And they were like, I don't know. But the test, the tests that we vibe coded, they passed. And he's like, well, yeah, but so, and he came up with this saying, and I think that's maybe an interesting thing to keep in mind, is if it takes you more time to read the code than it took somebody else to make it, then I don't know, let's at least consider this as a metric, because we still have to know what's going to happen with these things in a couple years' time. And if we all just, rely on the robot,
Yeah.
then
pretty
we're
easy
probably
to
not going to be
lose
happy.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like having like a Tesla autopilot car drive you,
Yeah.
but it will drive you from a very long route or something. Whereas you as a human you probably know a better way or like a more shortcut to your destination.
Yeah.
So yeah, why not use that because it's more efficient?
Exactly.
So,
And so, as the example that I showed, where I just said, like, please remove all the classes that you put in before, like, I mean, for me, in this case, I just have a very particular way of going about it. And for me, is a very satisfying feeling of looking at this piece of code and like, yeah, okay, that works and that's fine. Like, that's a way to do it, right? I want to do it another way. And I enjoy that I can get rid of 2/3 of this code and know that whatever I do now, which is literally like to get to this point, right? If I would have done this manually without all of your amazing help also, like it would have taken me 2 hours at least, like to come up with all the markup and to do the grok query to get the data from Sanity and in here and to create all of the TypeScript types and that we know that this is a string and all of the stuff that I'm not interested in. But I'm interested in knowing that if we want to change the layout on this in a year's time, then I open this file and I know exactly what's going to happen. So I enjoy that I know the way that I want to do it here and take all the benefits that we had up until this point to be super fast. Right. And I think this is where I really enjoy the way we work together, as you put it so nicely, to stay with an open mind and to understand what's happening, like to understand what's happening and where it really can help you remove a bottleneck. I think that was also very nicely put, that you're basically looking for bottlenecks to remove because you're frustrated by the manual work, right?
Exactly. I think you summarized it pretty exactly what I had in mind. Remove bottlenecks, find out problems that are causing you slow down in time, and look for smart solutions that can actually help you save that time. And if some solution doesn't exist, it's also a great opportunity because you can build something, as a matter of fact, vibe code it, and that can be a solution for everyone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true. Awesome. So I think this is a nice way to end the podcast. And I just want to thank you for coming on, for sharing your knowledge. And just to say again, like, I really enjoy our collaboration and our way of working. And I'm looking forward to more of it in the future.
Excited, me as well. And once we are done with this website, we still have to see how far we can push the limits of the agents, so that it will also keep on helping us with problem solving even in production and beyond. So right now we are in development, so a lot of this are like more risk free, but even in production, like, we have a lot of area to explore. So I am always excited to see where it goes along.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Thank you, Tulsi. And see you on a future episode, I'm sure.
Thank you, Nils.